How do you handle difficult people in your life? No, you don't hit them over the head with a club. No, you click on that little box down there and you'll find out all the details here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. You got to go follow me. I'm right here on Instagram. We go live on IG Live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I am at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live, just like all these amazing people, Elvira and Eva and Dom and Robin, and man, so many people coming in. D. Marcel, thank you all for being here. Patty, today on Jimmy Rants. We also simulcast live over here on my Facebook page, so thank you guys for being here. I see Bill popped in over on the YouTube feed. Guys, I am just so appreciative that you're here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay over at IGTV right here. At the end of the show, so go check it out. You can also see the replay over on YouTube. Usually right after the show is over, I send it to my producer, and by 1 or 1:30, he has it up available on YouTube. So go check it out. Keyword Jimmy Rants at YouTube, you will find the show. Today is Tuesday, and so on Tuesdays on my flagship podcast, the Living La Vida Low Carb Show, we do air a best of Jimmy Rants, and so go check that one out today. I think it was about the study that I talked about where they said CGMs are useless, and I kind of countered a lot of the arguments that they made. So go listen to that today, llvlc.com. And then finally, pop on over to the official website for this show, jimmyrants.com. And once you're there, you can see all the past episodes there. No matter what happens with the censorship, all the episodes will always be at jimmyrants.com. And if you like what I do and you want to support my work, definitely that's the place to do it as well. Click on the Patreon link or the PayPal link, and a donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. Okay, you guys, I wanted to talk about a subject that I think more and more of us need to learn this skill now more than ever before. Because whether you like it or not, the world has changed quite a bit in 2020. And we have a lot of people that are now behaving in a very erratic way. They're behaving in ways that they probably have never behaved before. And or if they've behaved sort of kind of bad before, now they're really, really bad. And so I think we need to learn skills, those of us that have somewhat of our sanity left, about how to handle and manage difficult people. Do you have difficult people in your life? It might be a coworker, it might be a boss, it might be a spouse, it might be a kid, it might be anybody in your life that you just, for whatever reason, have trouble communicating with, getting along with, whatever. And I think sometimes we forget that we're so diverse in our personalities that sometimes a difficult person doesn't even realize they're difficult. It's just familiar to them. It's just a part of who they are. And it's unfortunate because I think, and I think of the show, by the way, The Big Bang Theory was one of my favorite shows over the past like 10, 15 years. And the Sheldon character on there always was difficult with everybody he encountered. And part of the difficulty was the awkwardness of being around people because of like the way he was grown up, and he was this genius, but then he saw things a different way. And so he was always the difficult one. And yet he was still able to live amongst the other characters on the show because they learned how to deal with and manage his difficulty. Now, sometimes they did it in a cruel way, using his propensity for being difficult to his disadvantage. So if you've never watched The Big Bang Theory, look at the Sheldon character. Jim Parsons won many Emmy Awards for his role as Sheldon Cooper. But yeah, that's the epitome. That's kind of a hard example of how you can visualize what I'm talking about here today, of these difficult people. And what do you do with them? So I have this article, you guys, again from Psychology Today. I love. My friend Brittany says I've had 27 years worth of experience with difficult people. You've had more experience with difficult people and people directly tied to your life that have challenged you in many ways, Brittany. So yes, I cannot disagree with you there. But Psychology Today has a ton of really great articles. I love reading them here on Jimmy Rants because they speak to me so much. And I don't know what it was about coming back from sabbatical, which by the way was 1 year ago today I went away. It's so surreal to me that I've been back now doing my work for as long as I was away on sabbatical, 6 months. And man, this 6 months of being back has not felt like 6 months. It's felt like 6 million years. Can anybody else feel me? So the sabbatical just seems so ancient history ago, but it's just amazing to me. We have all of these things that people do that drive us up the wall and make them difficult. So how do you deal with them? I've got a great article. And again, if you're just joining us, we're going to talk about how to best manage those difficult people in your life so you don't get exploited. And it's very easy to become vulnerable and exploited when you're not realizing that you're dealing with a difficult person. So let's see if we can teach some of these skills today. 4 ways to manage difficult people who have power over you. When someone has power over you, you are vulnerable to exploitation. It's challenging to manage anyone who has a difficult personality, but it's especially difficult when that person is in a position of power over you. So that could be a boss, that could be a parent, that could be a business partnership relationship. Think about all those things. And even like just friendship relationships that you feel like, well, I need a friend, but this friend is very difficult. Or dare I say it, a love relationship. That you could be in a relationship with someone who's very difficult. Well, I'm in this relationship, I have to deal with it. So these are going to be transferable skills in a lot of scenarios. Before considering the unique associated issues, I will first highlight what makes a personality difficult. So see if you recognize anybody in your life from some of these descriptive terms of what makes someone difficult. A personality is difficult when the individual does not honor and engage in the usual rules and social conventions taught by society for fairness and mutual respect. Can I tell you, if that's the definition of difficult, there are a lot of difficult people on social media. When I started writing about this Jacob guy in Wisconsin who got shot by the police, I did a post last week, if you comply, you won't die. And then another one yesterday or the day before, I forget when I wrote it. And I had all these people say, well, he didn't deserve to get shot. And then you kind of start to have the conversation of, well, he was supposed to be arrested. He resisted arrest. He ran from the cops. He fought the cops. He put one in a headlock. They tried to tase him twice. He reaches in with his hand first into his vehicle. He left them no choice. And so people are like, no. They tried to murder him because he was black and they were white. I'm like, come on. Like, that is an irrationality. That's a difficult person who is trying to take that position when my contention was just stand down, get arrested, and go through the process, and none of that would have happened. And so that's kind of a dramatic example of what I'm talking about here. But people can be difficult because they don't want to face facts. They're not really cognizant of kind of the worldview that they're putting out there. There's a lot of reasons why people would be difficult. Difficult personalities can take many forms, including engaging in passive-aggressive communication. If there's one thing that pisses me off more than anything else, it's people that are passive-aggressive. At least just come out and tell me how you feel. There's no sense in kind of like softening it a little bit. If you soften it and then you've got sarcasm in there and it's just this passive aggressiveness, like I get it a lot because of my weight. People are like, well, that keto diet would work well if you actually did it. Now that's passive aggressive because the connotation is you're not doing keto, because if you were doing keto, you wouldn't be fat. That's kind of the notion of how that plays out. And so passive aggressiveness is a difficult person. Being overtly hostile or verbally aggressive, that's the thing that gets me the most. Why do we have to get so personal and hostile and aggressive with people so fast? And yet it happens again on social media every single day. You see these people, and I don't know 99% of these people. Like, I know Brittany over here. I know a few people I've met you in person, but for the most part, I don't know most people that interact with me online, and they don't know me. And yet there's this just aggressiveness, hostility. And again, the anonymity of the internet makes that a lot easier, but these are still difficult people, and you wonder, are they difficult in their real life? They have to be. They have to be. How about having a bad temper? If you have a bad temper, please stay off social media. If you have a bad temper and you're refusing to wear a mask when you go into Walmarts, please stay home. I watched another viral video of this weirdo old guy who was preaching his anti-mask agenda to the Walmart employees in Alaska. It went viral yesterday, and my goodness, this guy was a piece of work, and he was spitting all over him, no mask on. I'm going, dude, if you got that much anger, just stay home. We don't need your bad vibes out there. Trying to split allegiances and loyalties of those around them. Ooh. You know those people in your life who you have mutual friends with, and they try to split you and your mutual friend up? I had a lady embezzle a bunch of money from me several years back in my business. She was helping me revamp my website supposedly, and kind of freshening up the brand and everything. And the first thing that she did, and I didn't notice it in the midst of it, but the first thing she did was she drove a division between one of my biggest allies in the keto space. And she said lies about him that later on, after I disassociated with her, I went to that person. I said, did you do this? Did you say it? And he's like, no. I said, she lied just to split us up. That's what she did. Feeling threatened when someone seems too competent. Like, I don't feel threatened by people who are smarter than me. A lot of people smarter than me. I don't feel threatened by people who have a more advanced way of thinking than me. In fact, I love those people because I learn from them and I get new insights that maybe I didn't know. But there are some people who feel threatened when someone seems like they're more competent than they are and stronger than they are. And they get defensive or even combative when someone holds them accountable for inappropriate behavior. If someone can't take constructive criticism, then yeah, they are definitely a difficult person to deal with. If you're just joining us, we are going over how you manage those difficult people in your life so you don't get exploited. And we just went over all the different kind of personalities that can take on the form of someone who is difficult. And so we're going to get into what you can do about it here in just a moment, but we're laying the groundwork. Those are the difficult people. Now, undoubtedly, as I've gone over that list, you have all kinds of people who have popped in your head in your personal life. So think about those people and think about your interactions with them. Most people, they just avoid those people because it's just easier to stay away. But there might be a better way, as you'll find out here in a minute. And sometimes it's inevitable. You can't avoid them. They're a coworker, they're a family member, they're somebody in your life that you can't just turn a blind eye to with their difficult behavior. All of these personality traits that I just described are frustrating and challenging for those who are in the orbit of the difficult person. Oh, one other difficult person they didn't mention here that I'm going to add. Narcissists. I did a whole Jimmy Rants a few weeks back all about narcissists and how you handle narcissists. Narcissists literally have never done a single thing wrong in their life. Everything that's wrong in their life is your fault, and they are incredibly difficult to deal with because when you have a narcissist in your life, you have to be prepared to take the blame for everything that goes wrong in their life. It's just true. And so I would say they are another one to throw into this category. The challenges are seriously exacerbated when the difficult person is in a position of power over you, whether that individual is your romantic partner, a parent, a boss, or someone else on whom you are currently forced to rely on. The dynamic is deeply anxiety-provoking, frustrating, and often confusing. When you have that person of power in your life or has some indelible link to you, and you can't depart from them, you have no choice but to try to help deal with them and manage them in the best way that you can. You can't just flee it. Obviously, if it's just an acquaintance that's in your life and maybe they're a part of your friendship group and they're just this acquaintance, you can shut those people out pretty fast. But if it's your boss, if it's your husband or wife, even if it's your kid, like there's a lot of kids that wield this power of difficulty and power over you. How do you handle that? Keeping interaction smooth with those in positions of power over you is crucial. So here are a few steps that are key for managing a relationship with someone who has power over you. You guys ready for this? This is really, really good information because we all have those people in our life who are just like all those descriptive terms I just mentioned. And they're everywhere. And if you have difficult people in your life and you have to coexist with them, here are 4 really good strategies about how you handle that. So number 1, avoid sharing any personal details with them because you allow the difficult person in a position of power access to your true thoughts and your feelings. And when you do that, it's emotionally risky because the difficult person will very likely use that personal information against you as leverage later. So anybody that's dealt with difficult people, you really don't want to have a long conversation with them. I remember going back to the Big Bang Theory and the Sheldon Cooper character, many times he would like try to bait them into giving information about themselves so he could then use it. And they would quickly notice it, and it would become very short answers at that point. And I think when you have these difficult people in your life, you don't really want to divulge too much information. And unfortunately, it's just a fact of life. You're going to deal with difficult people, but that doesn't mean they have to be your buddy. That doesn't mean they have to be your deep, intimate friend. These are not people you're going to have a rich, deep friendship with because at a very deep level, they are difficult because they're probably dealing with pain in their own life from some traumatic event or just something that's in their life that they hold a grudge. And now you're their target if you allow them to know more about you. So you're not going to have a deep friendship with them, which kind of makes me feel sad for those difficult people because nobody wants to be a deep friend with them. And I would argue if someone's difficult, it's because they are deeply desiring a real, deep relationship with someone that's real and authentic. And they're not going to get it because of the way they act. So it's this double-edged sword. Sometimes people befriend those people trying to be that friend to them so that they soften that difficulty that they are, but then they end up getting hurt because they divulge too much of their personal information. Think about the content of what you and the difficult person talk about and avoid discussing anything with emotional content. So that means this year, nothing about race relations, nothing about COVID-19, nothing about the presidential election. Don't you dare talk about anything except the weather. Is there anything emotional about the weather? Well, if people were in a hurricane, I guess that would be emotional. Don't talk about sports because there's politics in there. Man, what do you talk about with a difficult person? Like, that's the challenge. And you don't want to feel like you're having to walk on eggshells. This is the thing too. When you're around difficult people and you're trying to be careful about what you say, that's walking on eggshells. Like, that's no fun. That's like, I want to be around people in my life that I can say anything to them and I expect them to say anything to me, and nobody's going to get their feelings hurt and nobody's going to get upset and nobody's going to use the information against the other. You're just not. It's when we discuss emotional content that our feelings get triggered. But feelings and anything with emotional content should be avoided with a difficult person who has power over you. It should. Because at the end of the day, anything you share with them will become their next weapon of choice when you're most vulnerable. And this is the problem. When you are in a vulnerable position and you need friends, a difficult person will not be your friend. A difficult person will pile on. Well, it was all your fault. Whatever happened, it was all your fault. You put yourself in that position. So you deal with the consequences. That's kind of the way they would be. People often find after the fact that sharing personal information with people that are difficult ends up creating a lot more frustration, anxiety, and anger because of the confusing or sadistic way the person twists that information and then uses it to subjugate or punish them later. Guys, you know people in your life that have done this. You thought they were friends. You told them things in confidence. And when you were at your most vulnerable, the weakest point, and the point where you really needed a friend now more than ever, they throw it back in your face. See, this decision you made in your life, this is why this is happening to you now. Not being the friend that you need. Because sometimes, let's face it, sometimes we have to lie to our friends and tell them things are going to be okay when we know they're going to have a very difficult thing ahead of them. And you do that because you love them and you care about them and you want them to feel good about themselves. The last thing someone wants to feel when they're in a weak and vulnerable position is have all these things thrown at them to make them feel even worse. And yet difficult people do that on the regular. They do. Again, just joining us, we're talking about managing difficult people in your life. We got a bunch of them, and I see a bunch of you writing comments about circumstances in your life. Keep that coming about how you've noticed this in people in your life and what you do about it. But we're talking about how to best manage difficult people so you don't get exploited. So there's 4 tips here. The first tip is don't give them any personal information, which they could then use against you later. They will weaponize it against you to come at you when you're at your weakest. Number 2, this is a great one. The whole kill them with kindness. Watch this. Express appreciation for even the smallest, most insignificant things that these difficult people do. You might be thinking, well, why would I do that? They're all about ego. Difficult people want to feel like they're important. They want to feel like they have all the answers. They think they do. And they want to feel appreciated for the great wonder that they are in this world. And again, you might be thinking, why do I want to feed into that? Guess what? It will soften their difficultiness. This recommendation sounds like it would be a problem, but understand that this point does not apply in any situation in which the person in power is doing anything illegal, if they're harassing anyone or being abusive. So all of those 3 things don't apply to this showing appreciation for things. Many exploitative relationships fall short of any overt abuse and behavior that's illegal, but these relationships can still be extremely upsetting. We all have those. If you have a relationship with a difficult person who is in a position of power, but not actually hurting you or harassing you in any way, it might make your life easier if you find a way to engage them or avoid engaging in conflict or power struggle and instead make them feel appreciated. I mean, this is a difficult one because when you're dealing with a difficult person who has this abrasive personality for the most part, you always want to try to find a way to soften them. And you could say something like, I really, really love how confident you are in yourself. Now, is it true? I guess that's debatable, but you can take notice of something. And again, it's insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but to them, you're stroking their ego and you're making them feel appreciated for something about themselves. Maybe that's a soft way of getting into their psyche to maybe get them to think about it. Because at some point, I think even the most difficult person becomes self-aware if they're jarred into that self-awareness. It could be an incident that happens. It could be that they realize they've lost all their friends. Nobody wants to be around them. Something wakes them up. And when they come to that realization, it could be because you gave them this small, insignificant note of appreciation that woke them up and got them to realize, oh my gosh, and then they seek help to not be that way anymore. It's not fair that you should have to eschew your valid and true feelings Because if we told them our true feelings, that would trigger them and it would be really bad again. Just to cater to a distorted individual, but to best serve your interests, which is your emotional state, your stress levels, your mood, you must keep the relationship as smooth as possible as long as you stay in that personal or professional relationship. Ultimately, many difficult individuals in positions of power are grandiose, and they need to feel singled out as special and powerful. Again, stroking that ego, as much as it might sicken you to do, will actually make your life better. And in the end, that's what we're talking about here. We hope that they change, but most difficult people don't ever change. If you've met a difficult person in your life, you know they're pretty much difficult and will be difficult for the rest of their life. Some of it's a grudge because of something that happened to them in their life. Some of it is that's just who they are and who they've chosen to be in their life. I don't understand why people have to be difficult. I'm a go along to get along, to try to be a uniter, not someone dividing, but that's just me. Not everybody has that. Ultimately, many difficult individuals in these positions of power are grandiose, and they need to feel singled out as special and powerful. And by expressing appreciation for even the smallest of things, you will become less of a target for their behavior that will exploit you from difficult personalities by making them feel good and avoid triggering their most intense insecurities. Again, this is a non-abusive, non-harassing type of difficult person. If they're abusing you or they're harassing you, all bets are off. That doesn't count. But a non-abusive, difficult person, this is a strategy to stroke their ego. Number 3, always be prepared, focused, and organized. Again, you're trying to deal with a difficult person. You have to be the one that's ready. And if you're not ready, you're not prepared, focused, and organized, don't be surprised when a difficult person runs you over. A difficult personality, particularly when that person has power over you, has the greatest power over your thoughts and feelings when you get caught off guard, feel vulnerable, or upset in any way. So when you're around these people, you got to be always on alert. So if you're not on alert when you're around a difficult person, get ready to get blindsided, because that difficult person will just suddenly be all up in your face, will all up in your business, and then you're left like a sitting duck with your emotional state. And so be prepared, focused, and organized when you're around one of these people that is difficult in your life. To avoid being offset by weird, out of nowhere verbal provocations or personal digs from these personalities, always be mentally and emotionally organized and prepared in their presence. So if you know they have a propensity for being snide, for saying something sarcastic towards you, and again, I'm probably describing somebody in your life right now. Think about those people. Don't let them have that power over you by being unprepared. Prepare as if they're going to attack you. Prepare so that your brain is already there and you're going to remain calm and you're going to handle this in the way that you know how to handle it because you were prepared. If you don't come prepared, then prepare to be blasted. That's pretty much what's going to happen. So we're going over 4 ways to best manage difficult people so you don't get exploited. The first one was avoid giving them your personal details. Don't even engage in anything personal because they will use it against you. Number 2, express appreciation even for the smallest things because they have big egos. You have to stroke that ego so that you stay out of dodge. Number 3, be prepared, focused, and organized like the one we were just talking about. And the last one, you guys, number 4, make sure you have multiple outlets to vent your frustrations. You can only take just so much abuse from difficult people before you have to let it out. One coping mechanism simply won't suffice when you're dealing with a difficult person with power over you. Going to the gym or exercising really isn't enough. It can help. Take a walk, lifting heavy stuff, it can help, but it's not enough. Talking to friends or writing in a journal probably won't suffice either. Again, those things help, but it's not enough. When you're entrenched in a very difficult, no way to win dynamic, utilize multiple coping skills to manage the complex feelings that arise. So a little bit of exercise at the gym, talk to some friends, write in a journal, drink a little, something to take the edge off. Like anything, I'm not encouraging that, by the way, but if that's something that helps you, you just have to know that that relationship with this difficult person is toxic for you. I think sometimes we feel bad for the difficult person, but we forget their difficulty rubs off on us like secondhand smoke. You're getting secondhand difficultiness, which is manifesting as cortisol in your body, which is manifesting as not good things happening. And it's unfortunate because you almost want to help these people. And if you have that martyr heart, you have that heart for people, oh, I could change them, I could help them, especially if it's a love relationship. Oh, I'll change them. I know many ladies in my life that I've known, they get with guys that are bad boys and have these kind of difficult kind of tendencies. And they're like, well, I'll change them once we get in a relationship and get... No, who they are is who they are. Now, maybe they can change, but it won't be because of you. And I see that again and again and again. And so you have to protect yourself. And that's what this fourth one is. You've got to have these multiple outlets to get it out of you, because otherwise it will eat you alive. Now, guys, I've been an online personality over 15 years now. You want to talk about people that are difficult? I get some of the ugliest people that come at me pretty much on a daily basis. And it's not just the hateful comments. Those are there too. But just the people that just, no matter what you say, they want to combat you. And that's difficult people. And my strategy for dealing with those people is to be overly kind and sure of what I believe and just expressing that. And never resorting to personal attacks, even though they almost always resort to personal attacks. My strategy is kill them with kindness, be as on the up and up as you can, because at the end of the day, don't let difficult people change you. It's very easy when people are coming at you and they're accusing you of things and they're being difficult with you. It's very easy to fall right into that pattern as well. Oh yeah, well you think that, well you're this, and this, and you don't know this person from Adam. So you're engaging in the exact behavior that now you find repulsive coming from them to you, but now you're doing the exact same thing back to them. And I refuse to participate in that. What I do is always stay above the fray. I'm still human. I'll have my moments and I'll maybe say something the wrong way. But at the end of the day, my goal with interactions online with people that are being difficult is to always try to turn it back to, thank you so much for your comment. I really appreciate you engaging in my work. Now, here's where I disagree with you, and thank you for sharing your opinion. And I hope we could come to, an understanding of each other's positions. That's kind of the way I couch it. And of course, some people, they don't like that. They want the combativeness. They want to be difficult. They want to make a mountain out of a molehill. And I just don't go there. Like, it's just not worth it for my own emotional health and psyche. I don't do that. So, one final point. It is crucial to note that dealing with a difficult personality is a chronic problem as long as you stay in the orbit of that difficult personality. So it's always going to be a problem. And I would love to talk to a psychiatrist, psychologist, somebody that's kind of in that mental health business and talk about why people are difficult. Why do they choose to take on that position and live their life as a martyr? And I argue most people that deal with and are difficult to deal with for you is because they dealt with some intense event in their life or trauma that happened as a child or sometime in their life. Those things can trigger people to become this persona. And I'm thinking of a bunch of people in my life, one in particular that's just like so mad at the world. Everybody around her in her family is all the problem. She's never done a wrong thing in her life. And she's going to go to her grave thinking everybody was out to get her. And we know people like that right now. We all know people that are going to be that difficult personality because they feel like the world has been against them their whole life And now they're making your life miserable because their life has been miserable of their own making. What these people that are difficult don't realize is if you start being a positive voice in this world, if you encourage people, you uplift people, you compliment people, and you be everything you want people to be to you, something changes in your heart. I have seen this firsthand, and I've not always been a wonderful person to be around either. Because of my anger from the childhood trauma, it took me a long time to work through some of that kind of stuff in my own life. I had a little bit of that mad at the world attitude for a little while, and it took years to heal from that and then come on the other side and to totally flip that script, to go from someone who was probably more difficult to deal with in my 20s to now in my late 40s. I think I'm pretty chill. I think I'm pretty cool to be around. I try to be an encourager. I try to uplift people. I try to be a giver. I do all the things, but that didn't happen overnight. And so I don't think once someone is difficult, they're always difficult unless they choose to be that way for the rest of their life. Fundamental personality traits are extremely resistant to change. Like, it would have to take something that would wake somebody up, like greatly wake somebody up. They go to jail, they have a close loved one die that jolts them into reality, something that would shake things up and make them realize their bad behavior. Yes, difficult personalities have the capacity to change, and they can. Individuals with these difficult personalities sometimes do. However, typically, a person who has a difficult personality has developed all kinds of extensive defense mechanisms just to protect their own ego. Like, for example, if you try to confront someone with a difficult personality of some bad behavior that they're doing, they'll be like, oh yeah, well, you do this, this, and this, and I don't say anything about those problems in your life. You know, I just described somebody that you know. You can't say anything to certain people without them then turning that very same thing back on you, or at least attempting to. It's tough. There is such pride with people that are difficult. They can't admit when they are the problem. So asking a person to change fundamental parts of their personality is an understandable but not highly rational endeavor. So, finally, you'll serve yourself well to ask yourself honestly, how many more months or years can you continue in such a dynamic without your mental health, which includes your mood, your lust for life, your ability to function well, drastically suffering? Guys, this was powerful, and I hope you felt it here today along with my commentary that difficult people are here. Now, what we do with them is the challenge. If you can, flee those kinds of relationships. I don't care how long you've been in a friendship with someone. If you're in a friendship with someone who is incredibly difficult, you have to ask yourself, are you getting a net positive or a net negative out of that relationship? And if they're sucking more life out of you than infiltrating life into you, it's time to let that relationship go. Sometimes you can't let relationships go unless you're in a job where you have a boss. You can find another job, but sometimes you like your job, but is it worth it to stay in that job when you've got this toxic relationship with this boss? You see what I mean? So you have to consider all the trade-offs. Can I get another job? Can I go to work for myself, have my sanity back, and leave that toxic relationship? Maybe you're in a love relationship with someone that's that way, and you think, okay, I can't leave this relationship, but you can if you feel like it's going to make you better to leave such a relationship and move on with your life than to stay in it and then just be existing. What was it? It said there at the end, you lose your mental health, your mood, your lust for life, and your ability to function well. If you find yourself drifting into those qualities, it might be time to break ties with this relationship. So I hope this was good information. I see a whole bunch of comments came in, so I can't wait to get to them. I'm going to come here first to Instagram, then then over to Facebook, finally over to YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. Let's see what you have to say about this. Passive aggressiveness is so unattractive. Oh, Brittany, I can't disagree. I know a lot of people that are passive aggressive. And the way you handle passive aggressiveness is you kind of kill them with kindness. Because sometimes people will be passive aggressive just to rile you up, but then when you don't get riled up and they see you responding kind, they almost always apologize. I've had so many people that they'll do some passive aggressive comment. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad that you're one of my biggest fans. I'm just grateful for all that you shared here, and here's my thoughts, and just really appreciate you. And they're like, oh my gosh, you were so nice back to me, and I was an asshole to you. And so they realize it very quickly. Difficult people no longer bother me. If we have a talk that includes anything deep, I like to challenge their thought processes, even ask them why, and watch them unwind. That's true. Perhaps that makes me difficult. No, it makes you a good friend, because if you go deep with someone and they get high-strung because of that, that's on them. My favorite reply back to people: thank you for your opinions. You are allowed to them, even if I disagree. Yeah, a lot of people put, I agree to disagree. I guess we'll move on. I guess I've had a lot of experience that I can quickly pinpoint insecurities and flip the conversation to uncover any insecurity, tearing down their wall. It's almost as if their walls begin to come down, and then we have a real conversation. Yeah, I've had many of those kinds of conversations myself. I'm probably hard to have a conversation with because I will therapy someone real quick. No, I've had many conversations with you, Brittany. You don't therapy me unless I ask you to, and vice versa. But you certainly don't hold back how you feel in genuineness. So it's what I appreciate about you. Joshua says, I find the hardest thing is people that are backbiting but don't seem that way right away. Yes, like it's the passive aggressiveness. Yeah, I mean, I get passive aggressive literally all the time. And I call people out on it a little bit. I'll be like, well, there's no need to be passive aggressive. Why don't you try that again with less tone and more of what you meant to say? And sometimes they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, people don't think when they write. See, I'm a writer by nature. And so every word I type, it has a meaning. I want the words to mean something. It's why I put so much time in the things that I do post on social media. I don't just willy-nilly post things. I'll write a post and then I'll rewrite it 10, 15 times just to make sure, and read it slow and make sure it says everything exactly the way I wanted to say it. So that when you read it for the first time, you go, wow, like that's how he really believes. And there's no miscommunication of what it means. But sometimes people write comments and they're not always that meticulous about it. And sometimes they're passive aggressive because they're a little bit difficult. And so it comes out in their words in comments. Lauren says, really great live. My mother-in-law was abusive for years to the point of harassing, but she's like that with many people. We had to cut her out completely. She even made fun of my PTSD. Oh my God, like seriously? Yeah, I had to cut out my dad this year. And of course, some of it had to do with the childhood trauma and being reminded of what he did to me when I was a teenager. But it got to the point where he's been difficult my whole life for all the obvious reasons. But he called my mom earlier this year and was, I'm worried about our son. He's not taking my calls and da-da-da. And he's just, it's all about him and suiting his needs. And so these difficult people, they don't see the humanity of the people that they're around. And so it's best when you have someone in your life that doesn't see your humanity to just cut ties. And honestly, I don't feel bad about cutting ties with my dad. You probably don't feel bad, and your husband don't feel bad about cutting ties with your mother-in-law. There's just no sense in putting up with that kind of abuse and harassment. Anna says, if you're dealing with these sorts of people in your circle, drop them. They aren't worth your time. Anna, hear, hear. That's what I'm saying. Brittany says, my mother-in-law and I did not get along at first. I figured out where her loudness came from and challenged her on it. She's literally one of my favorite people now. Her personal attacks on me showed her insecurities. Yeah, I think sometimes that's true. And when you have the emotional stability and the experience like you do, Brittany, to be able to talk to people about those things, that's great. And maybe you can turn those people around. These people can be turned around. It's very difficult, but they can be. But most people, they encounter something like that and they just flee it and they never engage it. And thus those people never, ever change. Anna says, once you delve into punditry of current events, expect to be hounded about it. This is why many use pseudonyms on social media. Yeah, I think if you're going to talk about some of the current events, use your real name and be proud of what you believe in. I certainly do. Lana says, I have that right now. It's so draining to be at work some days. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you're in this job. You probably like your job. You're probably very good at your job. You've been there a while. And then they bring in this difficult person or a new person to be your boss. And I'm thinking of before I worked for myself. I like my boss now. He's not difficult to deal with. It's me. But when I was in the real world and having a job with a boss and everything, I remember I'd get a boss, and the boss obviously from day one showed they had no respect for you. Day one, just didn't like you at all. What do? You do some of the strategies we talked about here, but at the end of the day, your sanity is not going to be better until you get away from that. And I remember I was hoping with all hope that this boss would go away. And then I went away before the boss did. So sometimes it doesn't work out. Ultimately, in this economy, you have to stick with it unless another opportunity shows up. Exactly. And that's unfortunate that people have to make the choice between their mental sanity and a job that pays well. It's unfortunate. All right. Thank you, Instagram. Let me pop over here now to my Facebook page. Let me pull you guys a little bit closer so I can see your comments. What's up, Facebook? Let's see what you have to say. Melissa says, my brothers have a vendetta against me. It hindered our relationship and I'm so sad about it. Well, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. And they make your life difficult because they're difficult. Candy says, oh my gosh, that's my sister-in-law. Eggshells all around her. Can't say anything. She twists, turns everything I say into negative, weaponizes it. She works very hard to be the center of attention in the family. Everyone just stays quiet, lets her run and ruin all the conversations. Family gatherings are the only time I have to be around her. I finally figured out how to stay away from her while still being part of the gathering. They stroke her ego and try to keep her happy so she doesn't keep her husband and child from visiting. Shaking my head. Candy, that's probably not uncommon in a whole lot of families. That there's that one person that you literally just brace. And that's unfortunate. And again, if you call these people out, sometimes it'll wake them up. But most of the time, they'll lash out and they'll make World War III happen. And I have a feeling your sister-in-law would be exactly the World War III type. 20 years she hasn't changed. That's tough, Candy. Do you have this written out somewhere so you can share? I need to keep it on hand for the upcoming holidays. So it's called 4 Ways to Manage Difficult People Who Have Power Over You. Go look this up. You can do a search engine search for that title and you will find it. It's on psychologytoday.com. But 4 Ways to Manage Difficult People Who Have Power Over You. Go look it up. I'm thankful that no one in my life comes to mind. Jenny, you are rare because most people do have at least one person and most of us multiple people in our life like that. Tracy says, I actually distance myself from those people. They suck the living life out of my soul. Tracy, I agree. And it can be very exhausting when you're trying to be a good friend, a good family member, a good lover, and these people just continue to take and take and take and take and take and take. And at some point, the human body just can't take it anymore. And it makes you break. Kay says, I used to take that victim mentality in my love relationships until I realized that one day they had in common, or one thing they had in common was me. I went to counseling for 2 years. My life is mostly now drama-free. Difficult people I meet, I realize, are just people who aren't happy with themselves. I can't control others, only myself and my outlook on life. Of course, I don't deal with a difficult boss. That would be more counseling probably. So be grateful and thankful. Okay, you and I are in the same place because it took me a bit to get to this place about how you remove yourself and deal with these difficult people. So good job. Christine says, I did it for 20 years, done and done. I finally had to set boundaries for Christmas, which I hosted 100%. With her bringing all her extended family, that didn't go over well. She always had rude comments to say and got drunk and mouthy, manipulated my brother into silence. I think he just can't deal with the wrath of her. If he kept talking to me, I removed them years ago and I did nothing wrong, and I'm happier for it. It's unfortunate because I think every family has that one person that is incredibly difficult. Sometimes it's multiple people, but you're thinking of one person. Most of you watching this right now, you're thinking of one specific person in your family, in your friendship group, at your work, somebody that's that really difficult person to deal with. And I hope this Jimmy Rants today helped you learn how to deal with them if you have to deal with them. I think the ultimate thing is you cut those people out of your life, and it's unfortunate. The problem is some of us have that personality if we want to save people and make them better and help them out, and some people won't be fixable. I don't think it's impossible, but I think a lot of people who are difficult will always be difficult for the rest of their lives. All right, thank you, Facebook. Let me pop over here now to YouTube, see what you guys have to say. Bill says, I read Keto Clarity. Great book. Well, thank you. Doesn't have anything to do with what we did here today, but I'm always grateful for when people like my book, so thank you for that. That book's been a blessing in my life. Christine says, thank you for this. It was hard, and I mourned the relationships. That is the thing. When you cut off ties, you have to mourn relationships. And it's hard, but you have to look at the trade-off. Is it worth staying in a relationship with someone just because it's familiar and you're miserable because of their difficultness? Is it worth it for your mental health? And remember, I've talked many times on Jimmy Rants about what you think becomes how you feel in your body. Thought processes and emotional changes actually impact you physiologically as well. And so if you're not feeling well, that stress of being around this difficult person, especially if it's someone that you have to be around every single day, it builds up and it manifests physically in your body. Makes you more susceptible to weight gain, makes you more susceptible to cardiovascular issues, makes you more susceptible to blood sugar and insulin spikes. These are real things, guys. And as you're contemplating what you do about difficult people, you have to cycle in that factor. Because if you don't take into account staying in this relationship with this difficult person will result in something bad for you, it's not just the relationship aspect of dealing with this person. It's now impacting you. It's why I called it secondhand stress earlier. It's just like secondhand smoke. Can you get cancer? Can you have problems inhaling secondhand smoke from a cigarette smoker? Yeah, you can. They've shown it in studies. And I would not be surprised if these difficult people are just like smokers and you're getting secondhand stress from them. You might laugh at that. That might seem preposterous to you, but think about it. If you're exposed to it day after day after day after day, at what point does it not impact you? How can it not impact you when it gets to that level? So think about these things. And I hope these tips about how to best manage difficult people so you don't get exploited were helpful. Again, go look this up. 4 ways to manage difficult people who have power over you. It's on psychologytoday.com. Really, really great article, and I was glad to share it here today on Jimmy Rants. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. Go follow me right here. I'm on Instagram at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Instagram TV, IGTV. Or what's this called? This is Instagram Live. It goes to IGTV, but it's on Instagram Live. So come check us out. Some people have said they're having trouble getting the notifications for the show. If that's you, you can actually subscribe on my page here on Instagram so that it will always send you the push notification. Or just at 11 a.m., just go to my page and click on my face on the page, and it'll take you straight to the IG Live so that you can watch it live. But thank you for being here today. We also simulcast live over here on my Facebook page. So thank you guys for being here. And finally over on my YouTube channel. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay on IGTV. We also throw it up over on YouTube. You can type in a keyword Jimmy Rants. You'll find the show over there. Today is Tuesday, so on Tuesdays on my flagship podcast, the Living La Vida Low Carb Show, we air a best of Jimmy Rants, and so today's episode is about that study that said continuous glucose monitors are useless. So I countered that in a Jimmy Rants recently. Go listen to that, llvlc.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. And then finally, pop on over to the official website, jimmyrants.com. You can see all the past episodes there. And if you like what I do I provide value to your life? If I do, then consider giving value back to me. Click on the Patreon link where we give you lots of perks. Or you can do a one-time donation with the PayPal link. All of those links, you guys, jimmyrants.com. All right, guys, I'm out of here for now. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.